Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're going to have some fighting words. Before we go any further, you know the routine. I need for you to like this video and also please subscribe to my channel. So, I like to give things a few days just to simmer down, and I also want to see what people have to say when it comes to, a big fight or something like that. So, let's have the recap for George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez. First, I want to start with congratulations to George Kambosos. It was a big thing for Australia. It's a big thing for him. I know he faced a lot of adversity emotionally, like he wasn't around for his child to be born or, losing a loved one. And yet he trained through and through and had all the odds against him and nobody believed in him. And you got this other guy with the big mouth just running his mouth the whole time. So he had a lot of adversity here, but he stayed composed and he showed up on the night. Um, let's talk about the fight. It's funny. I do these videos and people, I get it because somebody's more popular or famous or, the odds lean toward that person. But what I like to do at my channel is to give both fighters an equal look, with their strengths and their weaknesses. I don't just like to say, oh, he's going to win. And then that's that. That's not fair. It's not fair to the other guy. I don't even think it's fair to you as the viewer. Like why would you watch? Because you can honestly, there's so many other channels. So you just sit there and say, well, this guy's going to win, and they have nothing behind that to say that this individual is going to win. Um, you know, I knew going in, Teofimo said a lot of stuff, and I knew he wanted to make a statement because he's that type of person. He's that type of personality where it's like he just I think he thinks he's higher on the spectrum of where he is in his career than where he actually is. Yes, you beat Lomachenko, and yes, that is a huge win. But however, you beat, and I'm going to have to bring this up a few times, you beat it a one-arm Lomachenko, and Lomachenko's not a big guy. There's a and that's huge. You go up against George Kambosos. Now, I said it in the fight breakdown. George Kambosos, he sparred Manny Pacquiao for many years. That's important. It's important because he sparred a power puncher. It's important because he sparred a bigger fighter, and it's important because he was sparring a champion. That's huge. That's huge right there. Just that right there says a lot about that guy, and it says a lot about what I believe he can go through. And sure enough, he went through some adversity in this fight. I mean, round 10 was not easy for George Kambosos. But again, we talk about personality and we talk about, just feeling yourself in the moment. I am just jumping to the 10th round because the 10th round was just, honestly, every once in a while, I just wish I was in somebody's corner and I could be like, what are you doing? He Teofimo Lopez, he knocks down George Kambosos. Now, instead of putting his foot on the gas, he finally decides to, now's a great opportunity in the fight for me to start talking. No, it's not a great opportunity in the fight for you to start talking. It's a great opportunity in the fight for you to do something other than throw big punches. It's a great opportunity for you to start off with a jab, which you have not done the entire fight. You haven't thrown a consistent jab, but now is a perfect opportunity for you to throw a consistent jab so you can set something up so you can finish this thing. He's already proven to be a lot tougher than you thought he would be. He already knocked you down. He already embarrassed you. So I know you want to get this thing over with. But instead, he takes the opportunity to start running his mouth. George Kambosos makes it through the round and fought back the entire time. Never ran, never locked him up. Never locked him up, gasping for air. Nope. Stood his ground. Teofimo took his foot off the gas and then starts talking. Now let's just jump back to the first round. Well, the first knockdown when George Kambosos knocked down Teofimo Lopez. Now, granted, like the round ended, but you saw how quick Kambosos jumped on Teofimo, how quick he was going to jump on him. That's what I'm talking about. There's a difference. I get it, you want to play to the crowd, but the reality is this is not basketball or football or something like that. This is boxing. Sometimes people walk in, they don't walk out the ring. you need to think about them in the end or when it's finished. But don't be concerned with, unless you're Roy Jones in like 1998 to like '05, you shouldn't do stuff like that. Um, guys really hurt. You're Floyd Mayweather. You can play to a crowd. You can't play to a crowd, not with this dog. And he was a live dog. George Kambosos was a live dog from round one to the last bout. He was a live dog. I knew George Kambosos. So if you look at the fight breakdown that I said for George Kambosos, one of the things I said is going to be a problem for Teofimo is he's going to close that distance and he's going to use combinations. Teofimo likes space. But Teofimo does not throw a bunch of punches. And I said that. And you can look at the fight breakdowns, and I said these things. He does not like throwing a lot of punches. When he does throw a punch, it counts because he's very precise, he's very accurate. But he doesn't like throwing a lot of punches. Yes, he's got knockdowns on his resume. However, that's lower competition. Once you start getting to like the top 5, that I honestly say like the top 10, things change. And one of the things that change is their durability. Yeah, it's easy to knock out number 20. Like, that dude ain't nothing. It's easy to knock him out. It's not easy to knock out number 8 through 2. It's not easy to knock these guys out. And believe me, they're going to try to make it as best they could or can to their feet. And George Kambosos had an answer for everything that Teofimo Lopez did, and I knew he would. I knew he would. Yes, I said Teofimo Lopez, but the only reason why I said it was because he beat Lomachenko. But in the back of my mind, but I didn't want any controversy, so I didn't say it, but he beat a one-arm Lomachenko, and Lomachenko's smaller. So it's just like, George Kambosos can beat this guy. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. He can beat the guy. He did beat the guy. He did beat the guy, but I knew he could beat him. I knew combinations were going to be a problem for Teofimo Lopez. I knew that George Kambosos is a much more aggressive guy. When I look at Lomachenko, he's not an aggressive fighter. He's a very busy, active fighter, but he's not an aggressive fighter. So if you couldn't really keep Lomo off of you, I know you weren't going to be able to keep George Kambosos off you. It just wasn't going to happen. And then you would just give him space. Like, if I were in the corner of Teofimo Lopez, I would have been screaming, throw a jab. Even when you don't have anything, just keep the jab in his face. If for nothing else, it just, it distracts people. If for nothing else, distract him. Do something. Don't. And then he had his hands down. It's like, dude, he's not slow. This dude is not slow. I do think Teofimo was maybe a notch faster than George Kambosos. But I'd say by the middle rounds, George Kambosos turned into a counterpuncher. And honestly, Teofimo Lopez is the counterpuncher of the two. And that was another thing. I knew he was going to stick to where your strengths are. If you're a counterpunch. It's going to work in your favor, especially if somebody throws as many punches as George Kambosos. It's definitely going to work in your favor. But, he said he was going to knock him out first round, so he needed to back that up. And don't say things you can't back up. Or don't say things, I get it, you want to impress the crowd, and I get it, you want to set the bar and listen, guys, this is what I do, and I'm just letting you guys know I'm the king of the hill. I get it. But this wasn't the guy to do that with. This was not the guy to do that with. I don't believe it was the guy to do that with. I wish his corner would have given him more instruction other than, F him up. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. Can you give him something else to focus on in the meantime while he does that? That was the only real instruction. What are you doing? F him up. Go and F him up. You got him where you want him. F him up. It's what are you talking about? This guy is nowhere near out of this fight. What are you talking about? He's been live since round 1. What are you talking about? There was no instruction in the corner. I kind of feel like Teofimo Lopez was honestly by himself in that corner because there was no instruction. And I just feel like everybody in that camp treated George Kambosos like he was like some peon, some step on where you could just go in there and you're going to do whatever you want with him. You're going to make a highlight reel out of this guy. Clearly, they did not do their homework. I did a whole lot more homework for my fight breakdown video than they did for their entire camp and George Kambosos, if that's what they believe. And you can tell that's what they believe because when you listen to the corner, they had no instruction for the kid. They had zero instruction. And it's frustrating. I mean, I like I said, I knew it was going to be the combinations of George Kambosos. I knew it was going to be the aggression and ferocity of George Kambosos. He's not a laxed fighter. He's in your face the entire time. When he was buzzed, he was in his face. So what do you think is going to happen when he's not buzzed? He's going to be in your face the entire time. George Kambosos threw every kind of punch you could think of. He was offensive. He was the counter puncher. He went to the body, and I said that. I said he was going to go to the body. I said Teofimo Lopez doesn't like getting hit to the body, but he was there to be hit in the body. He didn't hit him into the body as much as I would have liked, to be honest with you, because it was effective when he did it, but he did go to the body. And at some point, I think it was around later rounds, Lopez, his arms were down. His arms were down. And the last two rounds, he didn't do a whole lot. George Kambosos, like he definitely had another wind, and he was going for it. He was going for a knockout in those last two rounds. So, kudos to him. Now let's just talk about the post-fight interview where he says Teofimo Lopez said that he won. Now, I'm not a big fan of people interviewing guys after they've lost, especially a guy who lost for the first time. I'm not a big fan of that. Now, granted, he was composed and he knew what was going on around him. It wasn't like he got beat up senseless and his head was buzzing or something like that, or they had to wake him up. It wasn't that. But still, when guys are so much in their emotions, I don't necessarily think right then and there is the perfect time for the interview. I think you need to wait till they get backstage and, they had a glass of water or whatever. They rehydrate, something. They sit down for a moment. They hug their family and friends, something. But for him to sit there and say that he won that fight, and his argument was that the referee raised his hand, in which case I just believe the referee knew more about Teofimo Lopez, since, they're both American. He knew more about Teofimo Lopez, and that's why he raised his hand, because if he would have known anything about George Kambosos, you would know that he's undefeated as well. So he raised Teofimo Lopez's hand when he said it's still undefeated, but they're both undefeated. So technically he could have done like this. So if that's what you're banking this on, that the referee raised your hand, first of all, the referee is not a judge. Secondly, you're both undefeated. Like, so what are you talking about? Thirdly, who cares what the referee does? He did that prematurely, but it doesn't mean anything. He's the referee. He's the sheriff while you guys are fighting. You guys are no longer fighting. The fight's over. He's no longer the sheriff. Now it's all down to the judges. So it doesn't mean anything. That's number one. Then he goes on to say, well, I'm going to move up. I don't want to fight anymore. Like, the man just said, we can have a rematch. Let's just do it again. This was kind of big. Let's do it again. But let's go back to my home. But let's do it again. You have an opportunity to become a unified champion all over again. You got all the belts in one fight. And then in the second fight, you lose all the belts. And in the third fight, you have an opportunity to get all of them back. If you want to move up, by all means move up. If you feel like you can't make the weight and it's uncomfortable and you don't have your full punching power, and I totally get that. But I don't know if that was the best thing to do, the smartest thing to do. I mean, honestly, your pull and your power in terms of marketing and leverage would help. You would have more of it if you have the rematch, beat George Kambosos, become a two-time unified champion, and then say, well, I'm going up. More people would say, oh, I want that fight because that's a champ. And look what he just did. He's going to have more of a push behind him. So I don't really know I mean, he could just be talking out of emotions. I think, we'll have to wait and see exactly what he does. Um, I think when it comes to Teofimo Lopez, I think there's a whole lot of talk, but there's not a whole lot of conversation. I just think a lot of that stuff is talking and, talk in the moment, you know. However, congratulations to George Kambosos, as he's a very decorated guy, and he did it, and he's got something to come home with, or go home with. Like I said, he sacrificed a lot, and I know it's a lot more sweeter to go home and see his new baby with all those belts. It's a lot sweeter to go home and, now have the memory of his grandfather with all those belts, because there was a reason why he sacrificed and did not go. And now he has it. So much respect to him. It wasn't a shock to me. Um, he's the man right now. What are you going to say? He's the man right now. I look forward to his next outing. And he has no shortage of people who would like to fight him. And I really found it interesting that he calls out Devin Haney. I'm going to make another video about that. But you tell me what you think down below. And you know the routine. Please like and please subscribe.